The 126th Brigade was an infantry brigade of the British Army during the First World War and the Second World War. It was assigned to the 42nd Division and served in the Middle East and on the Western Front in the Great War. In the Second World War, now as the 126th Infantry Brigade, it served again with the 42nd Division in France and was evacuated at Dunkirk and then later converted into 11th Armoured Brigade. For most of its existence, the brigade was composed of battalions of the East Lancashire Regiment and the Manchester Regiment, although in the late 1930s and the Second World War it was composed of battalions of the King's Own Royal Regiment and the Border Regiment. Formation. On the creation of the Territorial Force in 1908, 2 volunteer battalions from the East Lancashire Regiment, the 4th and 5th, and 2 from the Manchester Regiment, the 9th and 10th, were organised into an East Lancashire Brigade within the East Lancashire Division. First World War. On the outbreak of the First World War, most of the men volunteered for overseas service and the division embarked at Southampton and sailed for Egypt on the 10th of September 1914. The first TF Division to leave England for foreign service. The division began disembarking at Alexandria on the 25th of September and the bulk concentrated at Cairo. Order of battle. During the war, the East Lancashire Brigade was constituted as follows: 1. 4th Battalion, East Lancashire Regiment. 1. 5th Battalion, East Lancashire Regiment. 1. 9th Battalion, Manchester Regiment. 1. 10th Battalion, Manchester Regiment. 126th Machine Gun Company, Machine Gun Corps. 126th Trench Mortar Battery, 1. 8th Battalion, Manchester Regiment. When British infantry brigades were reduced to 3 battalions in February 1918, 1. 4th East Lancashire and 1. 9th Manchesters transferred to the 66th Division where they merged with the 2nd Line battalions. 126th Brigade received 1. 8th Manchesters from 127th Brigade in 42nd Division. At the same time, the Machine Gun Company left to join a new divisional machine gun battalion. Commanders. The following officers commanded the East Lancashire Brigade during the war: Brigadier General D.G. Prendergast, Brigadier General Viscount Hampton, Brigadier General A.W. Tufnell, Brigadier General A.C. Johnston, Brigadier General W.W. Seymour, Brigadier General G.H. Wedgwood, Brigadier General T.H.S. Marchant. Egypt and Gallipoli. The East Lancashire Division remained in Egypt training and manning the Suez Canal defences until the 1st of May 1915 when it embarked at Alexandria for Gallipoli. The East Lancashire Brigade first went into action at the Third Battle of Krithia. In late May 1915 the division was numbered as 42nd Division, taking the lowest number of any TF division in recognition that it was the first to go overseas, and the brigades were also numbered, the East Lancashire becoming 126th Brigade. The battalions adopted the prefix 1 to distinguish them from the second-line duplicates then training in the United Kingdom as the 198th Brigade. In 66th Division, the 126th Brigade participated in the Battle of Krithia Vineyard, where Lieutenant William Thomas Forshaw of the 9th Battalion, Manchester Regiment was awarded the Victoria Cross, and then for the rest of 1915 was engaged in trench warfare. After the evacuation from Gallipoli, the division returned to Egypt in January 1916 with less than half the strength with which it had set out. It remained in the canal defences for the whole of 1916, rebuilding its strength, and taking part in the Battle of Romani. Western Front. In January 1917, 42nd Division was ordered to France, the move being completed by mid-March. It spent the remainder of the war on the Western Front. During 1917 it formed part of 4th Army in quiet sectors and taking part in some minor operations along the Flanders coast. In 1918 the division became part of 4th Corps in 3rd Army, in which it remained for the rest of the war. During the German Army's spring offensive, the troops of 42nd Division took part in the Battle of Bapaume, First Battle of Arras and the Battle of Ancre. Then, during the Allied 100 Days Offensive, it participated in the Battle of Albert and the Second Battle of Bapaume during the fighting on the Somme, when the Hindenburg Line was breached during the Battle of the Canal du Nord on the 27th of September. 126th Brigade was holding the forward outpost line, but withdrew before 0 hour for the rest of 42nd Division to attack through it. 125th Brigade's attack was only partially successful, but the advance was renewed after dark, and the following afternoon 126th Brigade passed through 127th to take Welsh Ridge, the final objective. 3rd Army's advance in Picardy culminated in the Battle of the Selle on the 20th of October. On 42nd Division's front, 1/5th East Lancashires and 1/10th Manchesters of 126th Brigade led the attack over footbridges laid by the engineers over the River Selle. The official history records that very fierce fighting took place on the strongly held railway line, and it was 2.5 hours before it was finally mopped up by the companies detailed for the purpose. The portion to the north of the attack up to the edge of Solesmes was dealt with by a company of the Manchester. The rest of the division then moved on towards the final objective. After the Selle, 42nd Division was withdrawn into reserve and halted around Beauvoir en Cambrésis from the 24th of October until the advance was resumed on the 3rd of November. On the 7th of November the 42nd Division was tasked to take the high ground west of Haute-Mont and if possible to capture the town. The division was held up by enfilade fire from the right, and 126th Brigade did no more than occupy some of the high ground. 125th Brigade was therefore ordered to pass through it the next morning and advance to the objective, but the 126th, in an endeavour to atone for its slowness on the 7th, pushed on and reached Haute-Mont before 125th could catch up. By the 10th of November the most forward troops were on the Maubeuge Avenay-sur-Helpe road. This was the end of the fighting, because the armistice with Germany came into effect the following day. In December the division moved into quarters in the Charleroi area, and by mid-March 1919 most of its troops had gone home for demobilization. Between the wars, the division and brigade were both disbanded shortly after the end of the war, along with the rest of the territorial force. However, in the 1920s, the TF was reformed as the Territorial Army, and both the 42nd Division and the 126th Infantry Brigade were themselves also reformed, with the brigade including the same battalions as it had before the First World War. However, the brigade's order of battle saw many changes over the years. In 1921, the 4th and 5th Battalions of the East Lancashire Regiment were amalgamated into the 4th, 5th Battalion, East Lancashire Regiment. The 9th Battalion, Manchester Regiment, was transferred to the 127th Infantry Brigade of the 42nd Division, and the brigade received the 4th and 5th Battalions of the Border Regiment in exchange, both of which had previously been attached to the division, but not part of it, as army troops. The 10th Battalion, Manchester Manchester Regiment became a battalion of the Royal Tank Regiment in 1938, becoming the 41st Royal Tank Regiment, later to serve with the 24th Army Tank Brigade. In the same year, the 4th, 5th Battalion, East Lancashire Regiment transferred to the 127th Brigade and received the 5th Battalion, King's Own Royal Regiment in return, previously from the 164th Infantry Brigade of the 55th Infantry Division. Sometime in 1939, the brigade was redesignated as the 126th Infantry Brigade. Second World War. The 42nd Division, along with the rest of the Territorial Army, was mobilized in late August 1939, and days later the German Army launched its invasion of Poland. When the Second World War began, on the 3rd of September 1939, the 126th Infantry Brigade was once again fully mobilized and embodied for full-time war service as a first-line Territorial Army brigade, and the units were soon brought up to the war establishment strength as some, in particular the 5th Battalion, King's Own Royal Regiment, were under strength. Soon after mobilization, the 4th Battalion, Border Regiment was posted away to become part of 25th Infantry Brigade on lines of communications duties in France. They were replaced by the 1st Battalion, East Lancashire Regiment, a regular army unit that had been stationed in Northern Ireland, under command of Northern Ireland District. The brigade and the rest of the division then began training for war, although, with most of the British Army at the time, with obsolete tactics in trench warfare dating from the 1914 to 1918 war. Order of battle. The 126th Infantry Brigade was constituted as follows during the war: 5th Battalion, King's Own Royal Regiment; 4th Battalion, Border Regiment; 5th Battalion, Border Regiment; 1st Battalion, East Lancashire Regiment; 126th Infantry Brigade Anti-Tank Company; 5th Battalion, Manchester Regiment. Commanders: the following officers commanded 126th Infantry Brigade during the war: Brigadier E. G. Darwell, Brigadier E. G. Miles, Brigadier L. Bootle Wilbrahim, Brigadier H. L. Burks. France and Dunkirk. The 126th Infantry Brigade, commanded by Brigadier Eric Grant in Miles, DSO, MC, an officer of the regular army, landed in France on the 15th of April 1940 to become part of the British Expeditionary Force. The 42nd Division, led by Major General William George Holmes, DSO, came under command of 3rd Corps, serving alongside the 5th Division, a regular formation, and the 44th Division, a territorial. The latter division had, along with the 42nd, initially been held back from reinforcing the BEF sooner to participate in potential operations in Northern Europe. Although this plan had never come to fruition, and both were sent overseas in the same month. During the Battle of France in May 1940, 42nd Division helped to hold the line of the River Escaut in the canals, until, with the rest of the BEF, it was forced to withdraw to Dunkirk. When most of the 42nd Division was evacuated from Dunkirk, 126th Brigade remained behind, transferring to the 1st Division for the final part of the battle and only being evacuated on the 2nd of June. After arriving back in England, the brigade rejoined the 42nd Division, then serving in Northern Command. During the evacuation, Captain Marcus Irvine Andrews, officer commanding B Company of the 1st Battalion, East Lancashire Regiment, was awarded the regiment's, the brigade and division's first and only Victoria Cross of the war. He was also the first of 8 Irish military personnel to be awarded the VC throughout the the Second World War. After returning to England, the brigade was reorganized and, due to the very heavy losses sustained in France, absorbed large numbers of conscripted men as replacements and was tasked mainly with coastal and home defense and training in an anti-invasion role to repel a potential German invasion of England. The invasion never arrived, mainly due to events that happened during the Battle of Britain in the summer of 1940, and the brigade was able to begin training for offensive operations. Conversion. On the 1st of November 1941, the 42nd Division was converted into 42nd Armoured Division, and 126th Brigade was converted into an redesignated 11th Armoured Brigade. Its infantry battalions became tank regiments of the Royal Armoured Corps as 107th Regiment RAC, 110th Regiment RAC in 111th Regiment RAC. Recipients of the Victoria Cross: Lieutenant William Thomas Forshaw, 1, 9th Battalion, Manchester Regiment, First World War; Private Walter Mills, 1, 10th Battalion, Manchester Regiment, First World War; Second Lieutenant Alfred Victor Smith, 1, 5th Battalion, East Lancashire Regiment, First World War; Captain Marcus Irvine Andrews, 1st Battalion, East Lancashire Regiment, Second World War;